First of all, I don't think she's here, but because she's been running around running her business. But I want to thank Cindy from Global Thrift. Let's give her a little shout out right now. All right. So Cindy has run this store, Global Thrift, for probably almost 25 years. She's an entrepreneur. She's a hustler. She's running an incredible business. Okay, reading from her own script, and she's a Bitcoiner at heart, and she might not even know it yet, but we're trying to, orange pill her, and she'll be accepting Bitcoin in this bad boy pretty soon. So thank you, Cindy and Global Thrift. Second, I want to thank Jonathan, and specifically his relationship with Domino's Pizza, and it's not too funny because he actually works for Domino's Pizza, and he manages a lot of the franchisees and works with them, and he has a relationship with one of the owners of 17 Domino's Pizza franchises, and he's been to the owner has been to other meetups, and he generously donated 25 pizzas for us tonight. So again. All right. Again, another entrepreneur, another business owner who's literally on the cliff like this, about to just fall into an orange pool of you know what, okay? Because can you imagine? So he's right there, and if anyone can do it, it's Jonathan. He'll be orange pilling Domino's all throughout New England. Thank you. And third, I want to thank everyone, new and old, like I said before, for coming. Traveling long distances to be here with us tonight, and hopefully some, if not all of you, will be there tomorrow at the Freedom Festival. A little housekeeping, mostly for the people who haven't been here before. This is a little reiteration for those who have been here. But we try to keep the conversation at these meetups focused on Bitcoin. It's a big world out there, and I know there's a lot going on, but tonight and every night that we're here at Bitcoin Meetup, it's an opportunity to talk about Bitcoin and learn about Bitcoin from others, and that's the focus of this evening. So, second, when we're at these events, especially at the quarterly speaker series, we want to give the speakers our undivided attention. It's a pet peeve of mine when there's little conversations going on when people are talking, so it's just out of respect. Keep the side conversations to zero. Until we take a break, we'll have a break tonight. We can go to the bathroom. I can go to the bathroom. Third, be sensitive to people's privacy. There's an urge to take photos and post and everything like that, and just be mindful of people's privacy. And if you want to post something, maybe ask if it's okay that someone's image is on there. So tonight's agenda, here we go. I'll introduce our guest speaker. He'll talk for about 30 to 45 minutes. Then we'll take a break for another drink, maybe a piece of pizza and a bathroom break. And then we're going to come back, and we're fortunate tonight to have a double whammy. We have Anders from Bitcoin Toxic Happy Hour, who's going to facilitate a roundtable discussion with some incredible Bitcoiners who have joined us tonight. And so I'm excited for that. So, here's the intro. I've never been too political. In fact, I hate being pigeonholed into one corner or the other. The two-party system doesn't sit well with me. Some issues I lean more to the right, and some I lean more to the left, and others I'm right down the middle. And this is probably why I love Bitcoin so much. It's apolitical. It's for anyone and everyone around the world. And it's a tool that can solve, if not all, many of the problems that plague this nation and the entire planet today. And with that said, our guest speaker tonight is Jason Maier, who's the author of the recently released book titled The Progressive's Case for Bitcoin. It's Jason's attempt to keep Bitcoin from becoming a partisan issue. He is teaching and educating on how Bitcoin can be and is being used as a tool to help, not hurt, a more progressive and left-leaning agenda. In a state like Massachusetts, this book should be very well received. and help us on our way to literal mass adoption. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to Jason Maier, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Greg, are you going to stay behind me? Okay. I'm fine. Yeah, no, can I trust you? Hi, everyone. This is exciting to be here. I appreciate the invitation, and I've been actually looking forward to this meetup before the book even came out. So we had been working on scheduling this for quite a while. And really, I just want to maybe spend a little while talking about the book, the origins of the book, what I hope to accomplish. We'll open it up to some Q&A too before we have our little intermission also. So I don't know if any of you noticed, but yesterday I was in Washington, D.C., so we were handing out copies of the Bitcoin Standard and then also my book to every single congressional office in the state capitol, which, yeah. Yeah. So huge thank you to Dennis Porter and the Satoshi Action Fund and also the Orange Pill app. They facilitated that event. Tremendous. It was tremendous. If you're wondering what it's like, it's a lot of walking. It's just, I think we clocked at least 7 miles just walking, carrying books around. That's the way the offices are set up. So I come into Boston right from Washington, D.C., which was a huge event yesterday and very exciting. So happy to be here. Been looking forward to it for a while. I'm going to tell you, my day job is a high school math teacher. I spend my days teaching teenagers about trigonometry, pre-calculus. They don't want to be in the room usually. Often they come in, they're scared of math, they know that they don't like it, and it's my job to sort of chisel away at them, get them to trust me, get them to develop a relationship with me so that they can actually open up their minds and their hearts to learn something that they might not even want to learn about. And that's really the same motivation that I have about Bitcoin and about writing the book from the very beginning. I realized in having conversations with people that wonderful moment where you talk to somebody who is confused or scared about a topic, and then you finally find the actual moment or the connection to get them to say, oh, I get it now. That's a really powerful moment for a teacher. We don't get paid a lot of money, so like we kind of get paid in that, oh yeah, that's awesome. So like that's like what a teacher lives on. So I realized I was having conversations with people about Bitcoin, and I was getting those moments with adults and colleagues and friends and other students, not just about trigonometry, about the actual most important technological advancement that we can probably think about. So those moments really inspired me to say, hey, it's kind of fun to teach people about something that they don't know about and sort of open their eyes to something new. It's absolutely the same as being in a math classroom and saying, okay, the law of cosines is actually kind of interesting, and you can get it if you apply yourself. So I'm going to back up. My journey into Bitcoin, some of you may have heard this little anecdote before if you've heard any of my interviews, but my first Bitcoin purchase was $20. And I clicked the button, I said, okay, I just bought $20 worth of Bitcoin, and I said, I don't know what the hell this thing is. I have no idea. And if I lose $20 because it just goes to zero, and I have to go to my wife and say, like, I just lost $20 because I don't know what Bitcoin is, that's not going to be a good conversation. So that motivated me to sit down and learn as much as I possibly could, and probably like most people in this room, once you start learning, you can't get enough. So my first moment was click buy $20. Now I'm a proud owner of $20 worth of Bitcoin, and it's my night to do bath with our little son. And so while he was playing in the bath, I sat off to the side and I watched a video to learn about Bitcoin. Okay, this is what a blockchain is. This is why it's important. This is what a distributed ledger is. This is all of the things. He's splashing, asking me questions. Not now. I'm like watching this video, like just play by yourself. And so that was sort of the tipping point. That was like, all right, I want to learn more. I really fell in love with it through a mathematical computer science lens. I love the technology. It clicked with me right away. And I just wanted to keep learning more. And then what I haven't ever told anybody was there was this moment where you keep clicking and watching a video or listening to an interview, or you find a podcast that seems informative. And a couple of weeks into it, I started noticing that the YouTube algorithm was giving me these ads, which they had never given me before. All of a sudden, I was being sold these like MREs. And this is like if you live in if you have a bunker, um, and um, and you're going to be in your bunker for 6 months, then this is the food that you need, right? So now that may seem totally normal to some people in this audience. Like, oh yeah, obviously we need a bunker, we need the food. The collapse of society is imminent, and Bitcoin is the solution, and all of this, right? So, but it was totally new to me, right? I'm just this high school math teacher who votes for Democrats because it's like the best option, but not usually pretty excited about it. And learning about Bitcoin, and now all of a sudden I'm thrust with this, bunker advertisements. And that was maybe just, I didn't really think about it at the time, but that was a turning point. I could have said, you know what? It's usually not a good sign if like there's things being targeted to you for advertisements that aren't your thing, like what am I getting myself into? And instead I just dove into it. I said, all right, I have this conviction for Bitcoin and I really care about it. I want to keep learning more about it. I'm not going to let that deter me. And as you continue down the rabbit hole, just hearing people talk or just sort of understanding people's viewpoints about this, became pretty clear that that there wasn't a lot, especially at the time. Luckily, things have changed a little bit. At the time, there wasn't really many progressive liberal voices in the Bitcoin space. There just wasn't. And I thought, that's an opportunity, I guess. And I didn't come at it from a political point of view. I didn't say, oh, I'm this offended progressive person, like I'm hurt by this. I need to make sure that this book is out there. It was really an educational viewpoint. I said, I know people will not learn about Bitcoin if they feel threatened by it. I would know that they will just choose not to, or they'll be against it, or they'll listen to their politicians. And so it was really just it was motivated by like education, knowing what it's like to be in a high school math classroom, and if they're not into it, or they don't like you, or they feel threatened by you, or they're afraid of it, they're not going to learn. And I thought, this is a great opportunity to put out a resource that would actually speak the language that resonates with people who have, up to that point, really not been spoken to a lot. And essentially, what we heard in the intro, which is that Bitcoin is for everybody. And if you actually think through all of the use cases and all of the great technological advancements and all of the opportunity that is still in front of us, there's no reason why we can't pitch this to everybody. So I've said multiple times that my book is called A Progressive's Case for Bitcoin. It is really for the class of 2024, 2028, right? This is what I'm thinking about. If people still need this book in 2032, then probably something hasn't gone well. I think that by then, the hope is that Bitcoin is just seen as a thing, right? They're not called Bitcoiners, they're called people. It's not a left-right thing, it's just sort of everybody. So really, the hope is that the book that I wrote, which presumably can speak to a whole audience of people that has been kind of left out of the dialogue up till now, can resonate with them and help them learn. And then, if it works, then we're not going to need it, right? There's no use for a progressive case for Bitcoin. We can just sort of learn about Bitcoin. So that was the idea for the book. It was to make a resource that you can just hand to somebody who's not going to be turned off because you're getting yelled at about, like, do you eat meat? Or if you're vegetarian, you're going to get called names. Or, is there a difference between biological sex and gender? Like, all of this stuff was just sort of really off-putting for a certain audience, and I just tried to provide a resource out there. So wrote the book, did not expect anybody to ever learn about it or hear about it. And here I am. And it's gone really well. I think that one of the most beautiful things that I've learned through the whole experience is that, and I'll just be honest, a vulnerable state. I opened up a blank Google document to write this book, thinking that I might be the only person, like I'm the only liberal person who's into Bitcoin. Far from the truth. Through the course of writing the book and actually reaching out to people and talking to people, there is an undeniable hunger for this resource or resources like it, to go out and educate people, to be able to speak a language that resonates with a certain population. So I'm truly grateful for having the opportunity just to learn that, if nothing else, that there's actually a lot of people out there who do appreciate what I'm doing and have worked with me and supported me and helped me through the process. And I don't think I knew that. The day I started the book, there was no Troy Cross, there was no Margot Paez, like none of these people had sort of come out of the woodwork in a really popular way before. So it was just one of those things where it was like, all right, maybe I'm the only one. It turns out I'm not, and I'm very grateful for that. So the book is organized in a lot of chapters that just sort of are the greatest hits. This is what resonates with people. When I have a face-to-face conversation with somebody about Bitcoin, and I know that they're left-leaning like I am, I know that there's going to be one of like 8 things that's going to resonate with them, and it's not always the first thing that I pick, right? Like I figure, oh, you know that like this is going to help like bank the unbanked, and well, they don't care about that. Okay, well, okay, it actually helps with environmental issues. They don't care about that. So that you sort of figure out what the thing is that resonates with them. What do they care about? What are their understandings of the fiat world and the problems that the fiat world has created? What do they care about? And then talk to them about how Bitcoin is a potential solution, part of a solution, a beginning of a solution to all of those things. And if you know Bitcoin well enough and you know the person that you're talking to well enough, you can find that connection. And so the book is really just sort of, all right, let me put that all together. Let me put it in a way that kind of resonates with people, or that they'll, like the vocabulary and the language all speaks to them. So that's sort of the outline. I've been very fortunate and very lucky to be able to do this. This is, you know, my wife is here today. She'll tell you I never expected this, like any of this to happen. But I feel like I'm very fortunate that it has, and just happy to sort of educate people. I really view it as a continuation of my day job, which is to try to find that connection and find something that resonates with somebody who's trying to learn something that maybe is a little complicated, a little scary, but is ultimately very important. So, you know, I'm not going to go on forever because I know there's a whole second part of this, but I'll say I commonly get asked, like, what's the reaction of your students? Because I teach, from 9th to 12th grade in Connecticut. And the first thing that they did, they found out, oh, you're into Bitcoin. Oh, you're writing a book. They didn't take it seriously because why would you? I'm just a math teacher. And they would just ask continuously, like, when should I buy it? When should I sell it? Like, how do I make money off of it, right? It's like, no. That's not what we're doing. We're actually changing the world. We're making it better. We're gonna make better money. That's what we have now. So over the course of about 18 months, that conversation slowly shifted from them being really interested in how do I make more US dollars with this Bitcoin thing, or even crypto, and it just slowly changed into like, oh, like there's actual like really valuable things going on. There's really important aspects to this that I should probably try to understand. And so the questions have gotten better. The conversations have gotten more in depth with them. And so it gives me hope that I can have a classroom full of 14 to 17-year-old students who should be learning about geometry, but instead they're asking me about Bitcoin, and I'll take the full 45-minute period and ask every single, I'll answer every single question that they have, and those questions have just gotten better over time. So that fills me with some hope that the generation coming up is actually like going to figure this out and take the work that we're doing and continue with it. It fills my heart with hope. One of the most recent conversations I had was with a kid on my golf team. I coach golf in the spring, and we took a 3-hour road trip, and he purposely sat in the front of the bus that we were on. I was driving, And he's like, I just want to sit up front with you because I want to just ask about Bitcoin. So we spent the full 3 hours driving from Northwest Connecticut to Rhode Island for a golf tournament, and he just peppered me with questions the whole time. And this is questions that were stemming from what he knew about the legacy financial system from his his economics classroom, from his own experience, like with his family, and how do you invest money, and what does that mean? And it was phenomenal. It was one of the best conversations about Bitcoin I've had, and it was with a 17-year-old who, was excited to learn more, also a little skeptical. Like he's like, like I get what you're saying, but I think it just feels better if there's people in charge of monetary policy instead of an algorithm. And it's like, okay, well, let's talk through that. Like, why do you feel that way? And by the end, something resonated with him that says, I don't know if what you're saying is true, but if it is, it has profound implications to, like, and he paused, everything. It's like, really, it's going to change how we do everything. And I said, well, it is true. And it's good that you're asking these questions now because, one of the lines that I've been saying to people most frequently, recently is that, either you learn about Bitcoin before you have to, or you learn about it when you have to, and it's probably a good idea to learn about it before you have to. And so I have a whole golf team and math class and a bunch of colleagues that are learning about it along with me. Very excited to do that. And then obviously people who are buying the book, most commonly when people reach out, they're not buying it for themselves because a lot of people know about it because they're in the Bitcoin space. A lot of people in the Bitcoin space do not agree with me politically, so they're not buying it for themselves. They have somebody that they love. They say, I want an orange pill, my brother-in-law, my mom, my sister, I'm gonna buy it for them. And I feel like that means a lot because that's exactly why I wrote it, right? This is a book that you can hand to somebody that you care about, that you love, that you want them to get into Bitcoin, but they've heard a lot of FUD or they don't know a lot about it. They're starting at zero, and this gives them sort of an inspirational way to look at it and hopefully get them from 0 to 1 and then continue their education. So certainly a consistent thing from the feedback that I'm getting is that I bought the book, it's great, but I didn't buy it for me, I bought it for somebody that I really care about. So I hope that's the case. Maybe, I know it's the case actually for some people in this room, because I know some people in this room, but that's the hope. So I'll stop there. I will open it up to questions and we can chat, keep it informal. And I also have books here. If people do want to buy it, I'll be around like all night. So just come up to me and find me. So yeah. Yeah.
So your parents called you saying what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good question. So I do have to be careful when I'm talking to students, right? Like, and this is always true, right? Like, I don't tell anybody to buy Bitcoin. Certainly, I don't tell my students to buy Bitcoin. There's an anecdote that I have in the book where there's somebody who was pretty dismissive of the whole Bitcoin thing when I first started, a colleague of mine. And so I mentioned, oh yeah, I'm work these extra hours over the summer. I'm gonna use that money. I'm gonna buy some Bitcoin. And she laughed. She thought it was a joke. And she laughed in one of those ways, like, oh, you're not laughing along with me. You must be serious. I said, yeah, I'm gonna buy Bitcoin with this money. And so that was like, at the beginning of a summer. And then she came back a few months later and she saw a Bitcoin poster above my desk. And she said, oh, so you're really into this? She asked me a few questions and I said, there's nobody that there's no intelligent person that's really studied Bitcoin for 100 hours and thinks it's a bad idea. And she says, oh, so you're saying I should buy Bitcoin? I said, no, you should study Bitcoin for 100 hours. Like, that's what I'm telling you. Learn about Bitcoin. I say the same thing with my students. So I am very careful not to tell them, oh, go buy Bitcoin. It's a good investment. Like, just learn about it. That's all. That's enough for me. And so I haven't gotten any angry parents. I have gotten some parents who are like, well, that's not for me. Like, I don't like Bitcoin. And so very politely let that go. But I mean, I think there's a lot of people who are just fascinated with the whole thing because they don't know anything about it. And all of a sudden there's this teacher who's published a book, right? So certainly very, very friendly people, very polite conversations, no angry parents. yet.
Yeah, curious. I know you said that there's a variety of coins that resonate with people.
Yeah.
Have you found any patterns as far as specific things that really resonate with a certain group of people? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? The short answer is not necessarily, right? I think that there's a catalog of things that I can talk about Bitcoin that are going to speak to a left of center person, a liberal person, and I don't know what it is that's going to really resonate with them necessarily. It's just knowing the person that you're in front of, right? I think that. There's one person who was very skeptical that I work closely with, and I tried, well, like this is, think about it as a protest against big banks, and like that didn't fly. And I tried to talk to them about like, oh, methane mitigation, that didn't fly either, right? And so I was like, oh, all right, fine. So like the next time I tried, it was like, well, there's people all around the world that aren't even allowed to like have bank accounts, right? So there's women in certain countries that aren't even allowed to have money. And like this is a tool that would empower them to do that. And that was that in that moment that clicked with that person, right? So you don't know what it's going to be unless you really know the person that you're talking to well. And so that's what I said. Like the book is a collection of things that work, but and I try to put it in a pretty thoughtful order that I put it in the book. But it's written in a way that if you really care about like one thing, then you can kind of go through and find it. So, yeah.
One of the impressive things that I thought in the book is just how many like references you have or footnotes, and,
Yeah.
and the whole thing is in the back, all the
Yeah.
different resources. So can you just speak to how you wrote? How do you go about writing a book like that? Like how did you gather all those resources? And
Yeah.
just sort of does it flow, or did you gather them all at once? Or?
No, I mean, if I had it all to do all over again, I'd do it differently. I didn't realize that I needed to. Well, anyway, to answer your question, the way I pretty much set it up was literally, okay, what are the chapters going to be? Like big picture. Like here are the things, and just brainstormed with a buddy of mine. Like, what do you think should be in the book? And we wrote a list of chapters. And literally, it was a Google Doc. I'll just say like the person that I approached when I got this idea for the book, my best friend is the guy who orange pilled me. He's the smartest. He's literally the smartest person I know. He's also the weirdest person that I know. Right? This is like classic Bitcoiner, and he's a very good friend of mine. And I said to him, I have this idea. I want to write a book with you. And he goes, yes, let's do it. And so I wrote the Google Doc, and then the next day I went up to him and I said, you don't want to write the book with me, do you? He goes, no. I said, all right, I'll write it. So he helped me come up with like, what should the chapters be, right? So big umbrella, right? So then I take through and one at a time, I would just sort of check them off. And when I went to write a chapter, I would just write down bullet points. All right, what are the things I want to get across? And then make sure I don't miss anything or I'd have to add, and that was very dynamic. And then you just buckle down and say, all right, today I'm going to work on this bullet point. And if this is an argument that I want to make sure that I'm backing it up with the information that is sourced, in an intelligent way. So I would be looking things up as I would go. I would know what I wanted to say, and then I would have to look up, okay, what are the specific numbers or something like that. And then I foolishly did not format it at all. I would just sort of like collect the reference, and then at the very end I was, I need to format this. So that was a lot of hard work at the very end. I was like ready to submit to the publisher. I was like, none of my 250 references are formatted. I guess that's what I'm doing this weekend, and just went into a room without windows and did it until it was done. So I would not do that again. But yeah, it was just sort of like big picture and then drill down for each thing. That's how I went about doing it.
What's the way that you think of asking this question are really leading? So I'll just say like Elizabeth Warren. What do you think
Yeah.
is on her brain when
Yeah.
this word comes up?
Elizabeth Warren now owns a copy of A Progressive's Case for Bitcoin, so that's good. And it doesn't have to be a popular thing to say, but I mean, I personally agree with a lot of what Elizabeth Warren says and does, right? Like I think that she and I align on most things. We don't align on Bitcoin, and I think it's a missed opportunity. Like she has, at least in a, in a very intentional way tried to stand up against big banks or help people, help the little guy. And whether or not you agree with her politics, that's what she's trying to do. And I think she just missed the ball on Bitcoin. I think that she really views it as just a political football where she can score points if she says something bad about Bitcoin. And that's exactly what I'm trying to avoid, right? Like we're in this dynamic now where if Ted Cruz stands up and says, I like Bitcoin, then everybody on the left says, well, now I know that I don't like it. And so the book is literally just hopefully, an opportunity for us to like get past that and say, okay, just because Ted Cruz likes it doesn't mean that I have to hate it. There's probably a little bit more nuance there. So I could talk about Elizabeth Warren. Like, it would be great if we orange pilled Elizabeth Warren. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that Elizabeth Warren has enough vested interests sort of pushing her away from Bitcoin. So eventually she will have to decide that she's going to follow the money or follow the voters. And the book is an attempt to get to the voters. And so that's been the way throughout, right? Like politically, I'm just a pleb. Like I'm not like into politics in the sense that like I'm part of campaigns or something like that. I'm just a math teacher. So the book, the target audience for the book is the people who vote for Elizabeth Warren. And if we get enough of those people speaking out, then she'll change her tune, or she just won't be senator anymore. Like something like that. Yeah.
One of my favorite memes is basically a person with purple hair and someone in a MAGA hat yelling at each other, and they're in a fish tank, and then outside the fish tank is a banker smoking a cigar laughing at the two.
Yeah.
I think one of the things you realize going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole is people have a lot in common with each other, and people on the left and the right get so divisive because they just want to feel part of an in-group, like they're part of a group that likes them and accepts them, and they'll parrot points that from first principles don't make sense. So I'm curious, after writing this book, have you found people from the right reaching out saying, hey, actually, I might not agree with your politics, but I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I really appreciate you trying to pull people into this who I might not, traditionally agree with.
Yeah, it's a great point, right? I think that what you're saying is true. There's a lot of common ground that gets missed because of sort of the political environment, the media, like politicians aren't incentivized to find that common ground right now, and we can talk about that till I'm blue in the face. But what is true is that there's a lot of people in power who are not incentivized to have people get along, right? Like you make more money if people are fearful. And right now in America, like it seems to me anyway, that you just get to pick the flavor of like what you're afraid of. You get to be afraid of blue things, or you get to be afraid of red things. And there's other people making money off of that fear, right? So I think that what's important to point out is like Bitcoin is an opportunity to transcend that. Like say, this is an example of a common ground. There's conversations that I have with conservative people who are in the Bitcoin space that go phenomenally better than if there was no Bitcoin, right? Because when you're sitting face to face talking to a Bitcoiner, even if they're a conservative and I'm a liberal, like the conversation goes better because you know that they're like, I'm gonna have a really, I'm gonna lead with good intentions. I'm gonna have a conversation that's real. I'm not gonna just try to like do talking points or like get a cheap political shot. And I'm gonna have a real conversation with you. So those conversations go well. Now, the whole point of the book is like you can't just jump to that like, oh, we have transcended politics and Bitcoin solves everything, right? Like you're not going to get people into it if they're not comfortable, right? So the whole idea is like people are in those buckets, and whether or not we think those buckets are manufactured by some other people that are incentivized to do that, like they still identify with that. They're comfortable, right? And so hopefully this is an opportunity to eventually break those barriers down a little bit. There's going to be things that we disagree on, and that's obviously a healthy part of like political discourse. Like we're not all going to agree on things, but there is common ground, and there's a way to have respectful conversations that isn't happening now. And so hopefully Bitcoin can provide that in the future. I think the idea behind my book is let's get people into Bitcoin first, and then we can get those conversations happening. Yeah.
I think that you probably have the best case study of working with kids from Gen Z and how that really unique dynamic plays out. I feel like as someone in that age group,
Yeah.
I've noticed that anytime I'm trying to orange pill, my friends either end up like, okay, I don't need to tell them anything.
Yeah.
They completely get it.
Yeah.
Or it's like, okay, now they're running in the opposite direction from me.
Right, right.
How do you feel like you found, I mean, maybe there's not one thing specifically, but like thematically, different things that have really clicked with younger kids being in your
Yeah, I think, you know, you're dealing with, you know, my age group is, like I said, is 9th through 12th grade. And so, that, you know, I've been teaching at that particular school for 15 years, and you develop sort of a sense of what resonates with the kids and what doesn't. And I used to be a lot cooler when I started, and now I'm not so cool anymore. But I think that when you start asking them really thought-provoking questions that they have never thought about before, they've certainly thought about, oh, there are some, you know, there's some altcoins out there that I can trade and maybe I can make money off of, and that maybe they're worried about their online gambling or whatever, right? All of these things that are going on. If you can get them past that and just ask them questions like, what is money, and like, how does it work, and why does it work, and who controls the money that you use every day? Like, those are questions that sort of open their eyes in ways that they probably haven't been open before. So the other day, last month, I gave sort of a Bitcoin basics for my school. So anybody can come and just, I'm going to do a one-on-one on Bitcoin, not political at all, just sort of how does it work? And then you can ask questions. And, you know, there's this moment where somebody asked me this question. I don't even remember what the question was, but my response was, no, they just teach that to you in economics in high school. Like, that's not actually real. I think it's probably something about inflation. And the econ teacher was in the room, and they're just like, ah. Yeah, so like, it's just opening their eyes to like, hey, what you've learned or what you've assumed or what people have taught you isn't necessarily the way it actually is. I think that's intriguing for some of them, right? I think you just got to get them past the, how can I just get rich without doing anything? And then once you get them past that, it works better. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Great. Oh, thank you.
Great job. Great job. Awesome. Great job, Jason. Thank you so much. I love the book. I just gotta tell this story because I started reading the book, and it's like a quarter of the way through, maybe less than that. There's like this one paragraph where he's just describing simply what digital scarcity is, and it's like this 4 sentences where he's just like, you know, if you have a PDF on your computer and you send it to your mom, like, she has the PDF and you still have the PDF. And Bitcoin is like, if you send your mom Bitcoin, like, she has the Bitcoin and you don't have the Bitcoin. And like, my head just was like, you know, like, I was like, I knew it, you know. Of course I knew that, but it was just like the way he explained it in those sentences, and the way he writes in a very very easy to digest way. So I encourage everyone to get the book and digest it, give it away, give it to your loved ones, everybody. So thank you, Jason. Thanks for what you're doing, and thank you for your proof of work.